In this age of tech, we often forget that Seattle is a seaport. Our self-image was forged on the waterfront, from ferries to fishing boats, schooners to container ships. We have a Puget Sound maritime heritage all our own. And one salty character spread that image far and wide. She was popular in print, on the silver screen, and TV. She was hearty, humorous, and hard-boiled. Meet Tugboat Annie. People of a certain age might remember Annie. She was tough, plus-sized, and middle-aged with a heart of gold and a hearty appetite. She lived and worked in the mythical town of Secoma on Puget Sound, aboard her working tugboat, the Narcissus.
The old Narcissus ain't never let us down yet, has she?
In the midst of the Great Depression, Annie held her own, hauling lumber, towing ships, and outfoxing her competitors.
What's the matter with you?
You're on my foot, you big ox.
Oh.
The rough and tumble waterfront of the 1930s was a kind of last frontier for a maritime industry transitioning from sail to steam to diesel. Annie was a liveaboard entrepreneur who survived by her wits and nautical know-how, forging a life at sea with the reality of Hooverville on the tide flats just a short swim away. Annie was the literary creation of a writer named Norman Riley Raine, a World War I veteran turned writer who came to Seattle in 1930 to teach short story writing at the University of Washington. While here, he was inspired by the people and stories of the waterfront, and he began publishing a series of popular, humorous stories about the plucky Tugboat Annie in the Saturday Evening Post. Raine became aware of the legendary Thea Foss. She was a Norwegian immigrant who, starting with a humble rowboat, launched Foss Tugboat Company in Tacoma into the largest tug and barge outfit on the West Coast. Raine's Annie was a tough, working-class woman, but she was more. She was street smart in the ways of the waterfront. In story after story, she outsmarted her unsavory competitors. Her main nemesis was Horatio Bullwinkle, a tugboat interloper from where else? California, who used every dirty trick to put Annie out of business. As Raine wrote his stories, he began to imagine the Oscar-winning silent and Depression-era film star Marie Dressler as Annie. MGM Studios decided to make a movie based on Tugboat Annie, starring Dressler and Wallace Beery as her drunk of a husband. MGM filmed some sequences on location in Seattle. They used a Foss tug, now called the Arthur Foss, for shots they took down on Lake Union and Elliott Bay. They even invited 5,000 Seattleites to create a crowd scene that was shot at Bell Street Pier. In July of 1933, the world premiere of Tugboat Annie took place at Seattle's sold-out Fifth Avenue Theater. The movie became one of the top box office hits of the year. It was the first major Hollywood film ever shot in Seattle. It's hard to imagine, given today's standards, a hit film starring two aging, overweight actors competing successfully against the more glamorous films featuring Clark Gable, Joan Crawford, Gary Cooper. But Tugboat Annie embodied the can-do spirit of the Depression era and blue-collar devotion to work and family that could redeem the working class and help America out of its economic morass, and do it all with good humor. At least, that seemed to be the Hollywood message.
There ain't a better captain between Vancouver and San Pedro.
The hit film spawned two sequels. The first in 1940 co-starred Ronald Reagan. Dressler herself died not long after the original Annie film was made, but she was replaced by others. Annie was also featured in a syndicated Canadian TV series in the late 1950s.
Hi, Bullwinkle, you old baboon!
Annie Brennan, I'll get even with you if it takes the rest of my natural life.
The movies made Annie and Secoma, Seattle and Tacoma, and Puget Sound widely known and captured an aspect of the city that is still familiar. In one passage from a story, the atmosphere is captured perfectly. Quote, Tugboat Annie sailed out of the room and down the stair to the street. Before her, through the curtain of rain, were sprawled grimy warehouses, railroad sidings, freight sheds, and the masts and funnels of shipping. The air, though murky and smelling of fog and smoke, steam and tidewater and wet pavements, was laced with the damp freshness of a sea wind. You know that Norman Riley Raine knew this town. That murk and smell and sea wind can still be inhaled today. Raine left Seattle and moved to Hollywood and went on to become an Oscar-winning screenwriter. Annie has fallen into obscurity, but she deserves rediscovery as a character who embodies an independent, compassionate woman making her way through hard times, and someone who can maybe teach us how to deal with the bullies of today.